Now, Krista, make sure you stay with her the whole time. She's new to the country. This is her first day. This is a brand new country. It's a whole different culture.
Okay.
Now, make sure you stay with her the whole time. I'll be here right after school to pick you up.
Okay, Mom.
Okay, have fun. Bye-bye.
Bye. Ignore my mom. She's so annoying. She's totally freaking out about this whole thing. She freaks out about everything. She always does that. Ignore my mom. So, you ready for your first day in the wicked castle of doom? I mean, like, seriously, it's so boring. I don't know how they can put us through this, like, every single day. How many schools do you have in your village? None.
Okay, and now it's my pleasure to bring back once again my good friend and fellow Rotarian, Mort Flaxer, otherwise known, a.k.a. The Geezer. Take it away, Mort.
Thank you, John, and good morning. Good morning to our guest, and good morning to all of our guests who are listening. John touched a couple of nerves that really brought back memories and memories. I didn't know John was of Irish descent. When I grew up in Brooklyn, half my friends were Irish, a lot of them born there. And out of self-defense, I really had to learn about the Irish. By the way, what the heck's the name of that book? There's a short history of the Irish people. I can't for the life of me remember the name of the author. When I do, I'll bring it back to you. But one of the people who, and historic characters in Ireland, who I really fell in love with was Brian Boru, who was the Ardrí of Munster, and I believe the year was 980. Shortly afterwards, you may not know, Ireland was the first country conquered by the Vikings, and which will explain to you why many of the Irish cities along the coast have Scandinavian names. But Brian got smart when the Scandinavians invaded the Vikings. He couldn't beat them. The Irish were unable to at that time. So Brian married a Scandinavian girl and made peace with the invaders. In the year 1012, however, Brian finally had an army together and was the leader of the first country to drive the Vikings out. And that happened in the year 1012 on Good Friday at the Battle of Clontarf. Fascinating history. You really have to read it. It'll keep you awake, ladies and gentlemen. It'll keep you up late reading. John, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you, Mort. You know, last night I was telling you about, and I'll piggyback on what Mort was saying, was that the Irish seem to be just these guys that always end up fighting or something like that. Maybe that's why we're such brawlers, I don't know. But some of the songs we were doing were rebel songs. They were the songs of the 1798 rebellion, the 1910, I think, rebellion, and so forth. And it just seems like people just won't leave the Irish alone. And they seem to be at a little peace right now, but I know that there's this undercurrent all the time about that.
Let me respond. We had an Irish neighbor. His name was Sinnott, Frank Sinnott. And he was very proud of his Irish heritage and asked me, as I was going to school in Washington, D.C., to go down to the Library of Congress, to the genealogy department, and look up the history of his family. Well, I did. And I came back home, and I ran into Mr. Sinnott, and he said, well? And I said, yes, Mr. Sinnott, I found out about your history, your family history, but I don't think you want to hear it.
Uh-oh.
So he said, well, go ahead, tell me. I said, well, the first Sinnott to get to Ireland came with the English army when they invaded.
Ooh.
So he was kind of stunned, silent for a minute. Then he looked at me and he said, this will be our secret, won't it?
Now you're telling the whole world. Great story. Well, you know, after a while, when you think about it, most of us, whatever our descent was, it's all mixed up back there anyways. I mean, look at the Ireland was invaded by the Romans. That's why you see a lot of the fair-haired Irish folks there. They have the colors of the folks from Florence, for instance, or you have the dark hair that have more of the Italian look or whatever. And but we're all Irish once a year anyways, and that's great. Thanks, Mort, for that. Okay. Well, I'm going to assume that Reed is missing in action, and he'll be catching up with you. Is he coming back next week? Okay, so you'll have Reed here next week to listen with and get a report on his trip. Again, this is a live show, the Senior Report. We welcome any phone calls that you have or anything you want to announce. There it is again. I really like doing this, like I told you, 753-52225. Jack, give us a call, and we'll be happy to take your calls if you have anything you want to share with us. Okay, my guest has been sitting very patiently off here to the sideline. We're going to squinch together a little bit. And ladies and gentlemen, this is my pleasure to introduce you to Leighton Swanson. He's the guidance counselor at the Hewes Educational Center, otherwise known as BOCES. Leighton and I have a great history together, one of my very good colleagues. We write throughout the Buffalo Bills season, and we commiserate well, we commiserate. I won't go any farther than that because I don't want to make a statement on the Buffalo Bills in their last 25 seasons. But anyways, we keep in good touch and have a lot of fun. So, Leighton, welcome to the show, and thanks for coming in. But tell us about your evening, though. Let's get to some important things, because Leighton had a fun night last night. Where were you?
We were at HSBC Arena with my son, and we watched West Virginia win and watched Missouri win. And
March Madness.
March Madness, and that was a lot of fun. I came home earlier in the week, and he said, "Dad, we got some tickets," and so I guess I had to head out with him.
Wow.
And it was an awesome experience. Buffalo's buzzing with a lot of activity going on.
Oh, I bet.
Yep.
You said a lot of vendors there. Were they selling T-shirts?
Oh,
or
yeah,
shirts
a lot of vendors, food, drink, everything going on out there. Yep.
I know this is the time of year where folks in schools or in offices, they're checking on their whether their iPods or their telephones and all that, iPhones and stuff like that. It's just a fun time of year with all the bracketing of the basketball competition. Okay, I'm putting you online. You're on live TV.
Okay.
Your prediction this year, who's going to win the whole March Madness?
Well, it's got to be Syracuse.
Syracuse.
That's who I have in the pool.
All right, you heard it first. We're predicting Syracuse to go all the way, so we'll see what happens. Okay, today I want to bracket our show in this way. All right, since this is a Senior Report show, and we like to think in terms of ourselves in a particular generation, 55 on up, that's sort of how they describe us. And I fit that bill, you don't. But you will soon, trust me.
Well, I do.
You do. You're 55?
Well, no, I got the 50.
Yeah, you hit 50?
I hit the 50.
I didn't know that. You don't look 50.
That's why you called me, I thought.
Oh, no, I called you for other reasons. Well, anyways, this is why I want to bracket that. You're really 50. All right. Our generation has wisdom, experience. Many of us have discretionary time on our hands. We have grandchildren. We've got the next door neighbors that drive us crazy sometimes. We have the next door neighbors that we really enjoy. We have nieces and nephews. And so today what I want to focus on is what can our generation do to reach down past the generation, our own kids perhaps, because they're already kind of in the stream of things now, but their children, for instance, what can we do to help guide these children? I know in many cases, and I'm not telling tales out of school here, but the national statistics are saying that in many cases children are living with one parent, the parent's working two jobs, and a lot of times grandparents are sometimes the primary or at least the secondary caregiver. So what can we do to help these young individuals with their careers, with their lives, and all at the same time? I know there's a big bill that I'm putting together for us here, but at the same time, helping the infrastructure of Chautauqua County to keep a good trained workforce and so forth. So first, that's the frame of today, but what do you do for a living? And let's start there.
Well, I'm a school counselor, guidance counselor over at the BOCES program, Board of Cooperative Educational Services.
All right.
Okay. It's a public education collaborative in New York State, basically is what BOCES is, and it functions as an extension of the local school districts.
Okay.
So if a school district can't support a program by itself, often will call on BOCES to assist them in doing that. Many programs offered at BOCES: adult education, alternative education, special education, career and technical education. I'm the career and technical education counselor over there, as you know.